Well, hello everyone. I'm glad you could join us tonight. We are having an exciting interview tonight that is taking place. Actually, I'm the one getting interviewed this time, and this is by a fellow by the name of Alex Ferguson. And Alex is a podcaster. He specifically has followed the red light therapy scene, all the different names: photobiomodulation, cold laser, low-level laser, low-level light therapy, all the kinds of things, all those kinds of, I guess, names given to red light therapy, or even better, photobiomodulation, PBM. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start off with our short little video, and we'll go from there.
15 years back, I realized that light could make a huge difference on the body. I ended up designing this very powerful light using LED technology. With this amount of very high power density, it can reach through the tissues and travel right to the joints. But the key is that the power density and the area is extremely important to deliver that light into that. The mitochondria receives that light and converts that energy into the cell. So it's like giving the cell super high octane fuel, and they run like a jet, and they're able to do all the things for repair in that. What are the products we have? Well, we have a small device, which is actually large when it comes to light therapy. You have a fairly large area of light and a high power density that can be used for different parts of the body, like your finger, shoulder, back, neck, knees, ankle, anywhere on the body. And then we have what's called the mini canopy, which is about a foot square in size. And then we have our full-size canopy, which is basically 6 of the mini canopies. And then we have another device, which is the helmet, and that device can help for mental issues, for brain injuries, for concussions, for PTSD, TBI, all of those kinds of things. And there's new research out there that shows it could be helpful for not only strokes, but dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's, and just different brain issues. Our plans are to move this technology into every area of the world where there's pain and inflammation, which is basically everywhere, and to expand that so people understand all the applications where this technology can be used to help them in their health in the body as a wellness device. People are looking for how they can treat themselves without drugs.
So in this recording, you're going to see myself and Alex Ferguson. And Alex I met at the PBM 2024 event, and that was in England. And there was 300 researchers from around the world, and it was great to be able to meet him in person, and he did this interview. So without waiting around any longer, here we go.
And the purpose of this device is to treat the brain. So a person would just lower this on their brain. 2 months earlier, he had a stroke. He spoke with a real bad slur out of his mouth. So I had him do the light, and the very next day, everybody noticed he spoke normal. Like one treatment of 4 minutes. She had been thrown from a horse, broke up her ankle, and this is now 2 years later. And I says, "Do you know about PBM?" She says, "Yeah, you know, it helps a bit." And I'm like, "Come on. Helps a bit? Here, give this a try." Another kid, he fell from an 8-foot-high fence. He had double vision. He was throwing up, all that kind of stuff. At day 7, he was still feeling not well, double vision, had to have a patch on one eye, did the light treatment. 2 days later, he didn't wear the patch.
Really? And so I just sat down with Tom from SunPowerLED and had a very fascinating, very entertaining conversation. Tom had a booth at PBM 2024, and I overheard some conversations he was in, and I realized I need to chat to this guy. He knows his stuff, and he's got a lot of experience in this space. So in this interview, we're going to hear his take on LEDs versus lasers and which he thinks is better. I also quiz him on pulsing, and in particular 40 Hertz pulsing. Tom has some interesting thoughts on contact versus non-contact use of red light therapy products, and his responses actually resonated with what I've always thought, so stay tuned for that. And Tom told me about some fascinating experiments he'd done around penetration and meat. Now, this is something that I've done very briefly and plan on doing again, but I think Tom has leveled up my experiments, so yeah, definitely listen into that part of the interview. And then finally, Tom shares some rather inspiring case studies. So there's lots to cover here. Let's kick it off. So let's get straight into this, Tom. What's going on? What's this about?
Okay, so this is my red light therapy used for, I call it the SunPower LED Helmet. And the purpose of this device is to treat the brain. So a person would just lower this on their brain like this, and this, the skull. And this is right now treating my brain with 660 nanometer. And after about a minute's time, I would switch the wavelength to the 810 nanometer, which may or may not come through the camera, depending on, I don't know if it comes through or not, but you might see a little pinkish dots in there, but that's about all you'll see. Because this wavelength, even though it's as powerful, I'm just going to put this on myself because, you know, I could use a treatment. I got some jet lag going on here.
So what sort of power density is that?
This is, we actually had it at a higher level, but right now our power density is roughly 50 milliwatts per square centimeter on the brain.
So why did you back it off?
Why did we back it off? Because it was actually a bit on the warm side, and a bit too much on the warm side, so I just backed it off a little bit, and actually half the power. So that
Wow.
Yeah. So we have right now a total of 25 optical watts. I've got all the fancy equipment to do all these measurements, but we have 25 optical watts at each wavelength, and we had 50, but we toned it down to 25, and that gives us that kind of penetration over the whole brain. So it's a very even amount of illumination that goes down into the brain. And so whether it's, we've got the print here from the opiate addiction study that was done in West Virginia that showed that 3 minutes of the near infrared. Now they decided only to use the near infrared at the 810. Usually our results are both 660 and 810, but they decided to use 810. And these were people with opiate addiction and depression. And with 2 treatments a week on the group that had the light, they were significantly better after 2 months than those that just had no light treatment at all. So they didn't crave the opiates as much. They felt better about life. Their depression was less. There's just a number of markers that were there. So that's the 810. We do make a 1050 if somebody wants 660, 1050. There's a premium charge because the LEDs cost us a lot more to make those to make that version.
So what's your understanding between the difference between your 810, 808 and say a 1060? Why would someone come to
because there's starting to be more studies on 1050, and 1050 is a longer wavelength, so that has the potential then to penetrate a little bit deeper. Has the potential. These enough studies aren't out there yet to say 1050 is it, but definitely 810 is beautiful. And then we don't combine them at the same time because we don't want to do only 50% of the power on one wavelength and 50 on the other. We want 100% of the power to be at one wavelength and 100% of the power on the other. That does mean that we have double the number of LEDs than a lot of companies and stuff out there.
But if you could have 100% going to both wavelengths.
Yeah, I think it would be also pretty warm. It would be, again, back to the pretty warm because the energy that we have right now, this is delivering 25 optical watts, which means 25 joules every second, which is a huge amount of energy to go into the brain.
Totally. Yeah. Are there potential issues of overdosing?
So far, not that we're seeing. We did have somebody who pushed the limits, and he just said, "I don't know. I think it was a bit much. But that was a doctor who's been in this,
Right.
and he couldn't put a finger on it. He says maybe. So that's when we reduced it so that all our units are half the power of what he tried.
Well, what did he do? How long?
He did it for 10 plus minutes, and sometimes even longer. But no, I've got some people that are doing that, and they're not having problems. But I would think one thing we did notice is some people, it helps stimulate them. So now they have more energy. And so you may not want to do the treatment at 8 o'clock at night, or you may not go to, so really everybody's different.
Totally.
Another woman in particular, she found out that she could not treat after 6 o'clock because she'd get so tired. By 8 o'clock, she was in bed, never saw her husband as long as she was doing the treat. So she changed her schedule up to treat that way.
So going back to the wavelengths then, the 1060, the 810, is it just the penetration that's a key difference? Or do you think there's more going on?
Yeah, there's chemistry that's going on. So we even though the 660 does not penetrate to that depth, we like the fact that 660 is absorbed by the blood, because now you're having blood, so you're having effects on the blood.
Yeah.
So you have systemic effects that carry much further past the area that you're treating.
Yes.
So that's why we like the 660. And 660 has been known to really help the redox reaction, increase blood flow, and other things. When we're talking the brain, so the red will go through obviously the flesh will go through the bone and start on the inside wall of the brain. The cool thing about that is you're going to help blood flow. You're going to help lymphatic drainage in through the skull. So that's going to be huge. And yeah, I've seen the results, like with strokes, amazing things that we've seen with strokes. One individual, a friend of mine, 2 months earlier, he had a stroke. And when he did, he spoke with a real bad slur out of his mouth. You couldn't understand him on the phone. It was like give up. You'd have to see him in person. And so I had him do the light. And the very next day, everybody noticed he spoke normal, like one treatment of 4 minutes. So let's take it over to, so strokes, we've seen a few cases of strokes. One person, their stroke was 20 years earlier. They did one treatment, not with the helmet, but the individual unit where they treated 10 spots around the brain. And the person went from the stroke 20 years earlier to a constant trouble speaking to the next day after the treatment speaking normally. Now, he would need to have ongoing treatments. The one person who treated him, I won't get into names, was very scared because he's in the medical system and he felt that this word is going to get out. That, the guy is speaking normally. What happened? Well, my friend treated me, so that would not go over well, especially because this is outside of his normal field practice.
So with the strokes, is there a potential issue of imbalances, like over treating one area?
Yeah, I know that's been mentioned. So far, we haven't seen that.
Okay.
But we can custom order if a person really wants to turn off certain areas. We can do that.
Right. So you can just target.
Yeah, let's say the left side or the right side or whatever. So that's a custom, but we can do that. The other thing is some have asked about pulsing.
Yes.
And there may be some benefit to pulsing. The jury, I say, isn't in yet on exactly. They do feel that 40 hertz has some benefit and 10 hertz. It is interesting when I put this helmet on, we have a special device that some have asked for that pulses it. So it can pulse on and off at the 40 hertz or 10 hertz. And when you do 40 hertz, you see almost like you close your eyes and with the red, you see it. When you close your eyes, it's like you just threw a pebble in a pond and you see all these kinds of ripples in the pond in your head. Like you can, it's obviously something going on with the optics and the nerves going back to the brain. But if you change it to 39 hertz, it changes the patterns. So something's going on between the two eyes and the brain. So 38 will look a little different again. And it's really weird. And sometimes, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I get asked a lot about it as well, and is the effect simply due to the frequency, or is it more the light being applied, with the on off, the slight gaps, the slight.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
I'm like you. I know the guys over at V-Light, they're using Gamma Alpha, and they recommend different protocols for different.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I'm just finding results with what we've got. But if somebody wants it, we'll give it to them.
Oh yeah, I like that approach. And my personal understanding is similar to yours. It's like, we're still digging deeper, and some people like it, some people don't notice any differences. But I like the fact that you can add that option. You were going to say?
Yeah, dementia. So I've had no experience to dementia. People have to come to me before I can have experience, right?
Right.
But one of my very good friends, a mentor about 25 years older than myself, so in his mid 80s, he had Lewy body dementia.
Right.
And the problem was he was acting out in his dreams, punching pillows, doing all sorts of things, going down the road, walking out in the middle of the night down the road. So he needed 24/7 care at that point. He was forgetting. He was falling out of bed. He was forgetting names. I mean, I love the guy. He's a great guy. And I said, look, as soon as I found out about that, he just got out of the hospital. I says, here, take the helmet. His wife used it on him. And he went from not remembering names, all those things, to sleeping normally, which is huge. And the other thing was he could remember names again. And then he said, PBM, it's really good because it's a very safe type of treatment, and it can do this, and it can help my brain like it's happening to me, and it can help this, and it can help this. It even helps my knees. His wife is looking at him like, what planet did you come back from? Because she figures he regained about 3 years of his cognitive abilities.
And so what are people doing? Just one treatment a day, one treatment a week?
I'm suggesting for people, in his case, he only did it once a day because just sometimes people just have these concerns. What's this going to do to me? Is it going to make anything any worse? But as you heard in these seminars, there's nothing that's happening out there.
Yeah.
The worst that you could get is a burn from a laser, maybe, but we don't use lasers, so we use LEDs. But the amount of change in his life is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's incredible. And I know you've shared quite a few stories. I've overheard a few stories, which are all, every time you're like, wow, this is.
Well, the concussions, that's another big one. So I have had two young fellows, three actually, that have come to me. And one of them, we have the video. Did you see the video?
No, I didn't.
No. Okay. Well, we got it on our website.
I'll put the links down below.
Yeah. So on the website, but he had a concussion. He's at a church. He was playing a game with his friends and fell onto concrete. Another kid fell right onto the top of his head at the same time. So really laced him into the concrete. And he was in rough shape. They took him to the hospital night. He didn't have any brain bleeds. Scans were done on him, but he did have a hematoma close to the outside, I guess, but obvious signs of everything that happened. The parents would say, he would ask, why does my head hurt? And he said, the parents would say, like, you just had a major hit on your head. And 2 minutes later, he said, why does my head hurt? He can't remember anything of the event. And then he came down at day 5, and he loves to read. Couldn't read one sentence. Like he says, it would just give him an immediate headache. He did the light treatment, and he says straight away. That's one of your comments from down under, straight away. straight away, I didn't have any more headache right after the treatment. So he not only did he said that, but the next day he was able to read a book again.
How old was this?
He was 10.
So you're okay? I mean, children are using it.
Yeah, so I got the parents do sign a waiver, but so that was one, and then he did another treatment, and he was totally back to normal. So he did three treatments in total, but the third treatment was just to make sure.
No way.
Yeah, and that was all within 1 week.
So are you dialing back the okay? What are you doing with children? Are you short?
Same.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a little smaller skull, but it's surface area and what's going in. So no. Another kid, he fell from an 8-foot high fence and really plummeted his head into the ground, and he had double vision. He was throwing up, all that kind of stuff. At day 7, he was still feeling not well, double vision. Had to have a patch on one eye, did the light treatment. 2 days later, he didn't wear the patch.
Really?
And then he says, he said he was feeling better. And he says, but, over there, I can't quite read that. It's a little fuzzy. Did the treatment for 4 minutes, 3 minutes of the, 1 minute of the red, 3 minutes of the near infrared. And he comes out and he says, hey, that's clear over there.
Wow. That fast, huh?
Yeah, so
that's remarkable. I mean, it's so exciting. Like, as someone who, my child, we've had some medical issues, and we've utilized PBM with him, like handheld laser devices, and we're having some good results. Whether it was from the lasers or not, I'm not too sure. But it's like the more people that use this, the better, because like the side effects are minimal, and the upsides, it's enormous.
So that's the helmet, and then we have the other device, which is the mini canopy. This one here, which is running at the 810 nanometer, and now we're going to flood out your camera with the 660 nanometer. But so this is, I have a palm device right behind your, if you want to grab one of those. We can that's okay. So this is actually 15 of these units in here, the same energy. So we have a power density of 100 milliwatts per square centimeter or above, up to 180 milliwatts per square centimeter. As soon as you put, so what we've done is we put these little knobs on here, and that's to keep your skin away from the light source. It's not that the light source is overly hot, but what it does is it traps the heat in there. And with this, it allows ventilation. With this device, you don't lay this right on your back or wherever you're treating. You still have it an inch or two away from the body. But this wavelength is the same, like there's your 660 nanometer, and you can see it coming through my hand there. And if you had a cheap camera there, but you don't, you would see this wavelength. Now, this is showing you that it's working. Okay, but the other wavelength that's in here can be exposed with an Android camera. So if you put an Android camera, you'll see the light coming from it. But you can feel quite a bit of energy from that. And so this is, and I'm just going to make sure we turn it this way just in case it just bothers the camera a little bit. But so this does the same thing as that, only that's 15 times more area, so it does it pretty quick.
Hey, sorry to interrupt what is a fascinating conversation. I just wanted to say, if you're enjoying this, can you just give me a quick press on the like button, subscribe if you want to see more interviews like this. I did 8 interviews from PBM 2024, so there's a bunch more content like this that will be coming out. So hit subscribe if you want to be notified when those go live. So all LEDs, what's your take here on LEDs versus lasers?
Well, early on, it was said that lasers are the only thing that'll penetrate. And part of that was true, because the old LEDs were very low power. And you would never think of lighting a whole football stadium up with LEDs, would you?
Yes, right.
Those days.
Back then, yeah.
But now we light up whole football stadiums with LEDs. So LEDs have now come to the point where they're much more powerful than ever they are, so, and the economy of the scale right now. So the first LEDs I worked with about 15 16 years, 17 years. Okay, time is moving, but 17, 18 years ago was they were $70 a piece, and you need 3 of those just to make the same light output of a 100-watt light bulb. Nobody could afford those type of LEDs. So lasers, if you're treating in the mouth or somewhere and you need to get a point source of light, a laser can't be beat for being right on. But we do have also an optical device that goes on to snaps into here and allows you to, it just puts it through a fire, and you can put it right on the tooth or wherever you're trying to treat. So you can use this inaurally, or you can use it that way as well. So, or anywhere else on the body.
So that's not battery packed.
Yeah, sorry, this is not battery packed, and there's a good reason for that. We need a battery pack like this to run this thing for 2 hours. So you know what? It doesn't make any sense. We just plug it in. There's no batteries to wear out. And the one nice thing is on flights is they have no issues with these devices because they don't have any batteries, any lithium batteries in there.
Some people make an argument that laser light is more coherent. You're getting the
full beam right through. So that's excellent, because that what I've been able to demonstrate is if you took a laser and put it on the backside of your finger here, and you shone it into your finger, a 660 nanometer laser, the thinking is that it'll stay a dot and continue to go to the wall as a dot. But in actual fact, it diffuses in all directions, so the whole finger becomes illuminated. So much for coherent light that's going to be so beam
it's coherent.
Yeah, exactly. And then it goes in all directions. Now there's what's called a speckling effect, and there might be some extra benefit to it. But what I presented today was a study that we've done where we went through pork, chicken breast, and steak. You got to have steak, right? Mm-hmm. So we had 3/4 of an inch, inch and a half, and 2 1/4 inches of steak. And I set up a system that was a ball. It's called a spherical culminator. It's a very expensive piece of equipment. Most people won't buy it. It's like 10 grand just for this ball. But what it does is if you put you shoot a laser into the 2-inch opening, or you can set it for whatever you want. But if you put the laser in that 2-inch opening, doesn't matter where you shine it around, it'll measure. If you have a optical measurement inside, you'll know exactly the amount of power that's coming into that ball. And it's because it bounces off the walls, and by the time it bounces 5 times, it's so uniform inside that any proper light meter, which I have, will measure properly as to the energy that's coming out. So you can do very accurate comparisons between 660, 810, and 1050. The ball does not allow any light to come in from anywhere else. So it's only light that comes in through the source. So what we did is I have the devices that are 660, the Palm, 810, and 1050. And we put them over top of the steak or chicken or pork chop. And when we did, we measured the accurate amount of light that was coming inside. So it had to go through all that tissue. The room was a little darker, so we didn't have light going into the tissue to influence the readings. What we had was that I also took lasers and put them on the same tissue. Now, the difference on a laser, as you well enough know, that you can point it across the room and it stays as a dot, unless they use a diffuser tip on it, which spreads the light out over a little larger area. But in this case, we shone the laser on the top of the tissue. Funny part was you could raise it up or down. It didn't change as long as you hit on top of that area on the steak. It was no different. So what happened was the 5-watt laser at 1064 nanometer and our 5-watt device at 1050 nanometer, after it went through all that steak, there was no difference between the two.
Really?
So the measurement was very little difference between the two, the wavelengths coming through. Oh, the other thing was wavelengths. we definitely looked at 660 and 810,
Yeah.
and the two tracked identical. So if you had the same optical power going in from a laser
Yeah.
or optical power from an LED device, the measurement was the same below it.
That's fascinating. That's such a cool experiment. I've done something similar. It's not to your scale. I have a spectrometer, right? A couple $1,000.
Yes.
And yeah, I did similar.
Well, you got one decent piece.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. A similar sort of test, with some meat. I was actually testing bone. I got some a tibia bone from a
Beautiful.
beef, and so it was about a centimeter thick. And yeah, I was doing similar testing just to see what the penetration was, because people were saying, "Oh, it won't penetrate bone." I'm like, well,
No, bone is well. What did you find out?
Of course, it was
Bone is a high mineral content, and the light will go right through it pretty good.
And the bone I was testing wasn't fresh bone either. So
Yeah.
it was interesting. I didn't know how much impact, but yeah, there was plenty of light coming through, which I was like,
Yeah. So I found out very early working with one of the individuals. We actually had another thing that we were working with was 635 nanometer to photoactivate a drug. So photodynamic therapy, that's another deal all itself. But it was 635 nanometer, and we were able to go through 8 centimeters of pork breast tissue. That's just under 4 inches of pork breast tissue. We shone right through at 635. Now we had the key in how deep you're going to go is how much area you have and the power density.
Yeah, right.
The two have to, and the wavelength that you're operating. So it's an and those three things together. And so what we were able to show is with this measurement, the other measurements that we did is as we increased the area, we stayed at the same power density. So it was 100 milliwatts per square centimeter. But as we had, let's say, first a 3x3, 9 square centimeters, then we went to 4x4 and 5x5 and 6x. We got up to 10x10. And when we went up by 10x10, the light level on the other side still increased from 8x8 to 10x10. So the area outside was diffusing, bringing light energy in through the tissue because of the scattering and adding to the light at a given depth down the center line.
That's cool.
It really is neat how deep and that light can penetrate. And unfortunately, there was a lot of push in the early stages that light can't penetrate very deep.
Totally.
And part of that was because they were working with lasers. They put the laser on a spot of tissue. Now, just imagine if I had a small laser and I measured the light on the back side of the hand. If I took that laser with a small spot size and started increasing the power, I'd get so much up before I'm starting to burn, overheat the skin. And that would be the limit. Okay. And then how much light would be back here? Very, very little. But if you reduce that power to maybe half and you had 1,000 points, 1,000 points of light across that whole area, then that light tremendously increases the light just behind that. And that light energy, as you know, can stimulate the cells and do just a whole whack of things, beautiful things with light.
What's your take on skin to split contact treatment versus contact treatment? How much light do we lose into reflection?
Good point. Good point. So one of the things is in the early days when we had T1 and 3/4 LEDs, that's the little plastic ones with 2 leads on it that had maybe 10 milliwatts of light power coming out of it. You didn't want to waste one little tiny bit of power. You wanted all the power you can get. So if you actually pushed the light against the surface, you would shorten the path a little bit. So you'd reduce the losses a little bit. But what we did do, so that was in the beginning. Let's say we will be comfortable to lose 25% of the energy now because we have let's say, beam spread that's wider. And the white light, some light will be lost going off. But if I'm starting off with a device that's 10 times more powerful than this laser, who cares if I lose 25% of the light? But we did on a scientific side, we took a laser and took a measurement on the back side of the hand And as you put the laser on an angle, okay, up here you had a certain reading. By the time you were at 45 degrees, you lost about 25% of the light energy.
Right.
Okay, reverse that. That's kind of like an LED, where the LED has a spread like that, and you get some. But guess what? The power isn't all around the outside. The power is all the way around this, and with a major contribution through the center line. So yes, it's got a curve like this, but the light that's way out here is only going to lose 25%. So of the total amount that you're losing, it's not a lot. You could figure on 10, 15%, not even 25%. But the angle, so that incident angle, which causes reflection. So if you took the laser right out here and you pointed right and you put it at a 45-degree angle, it's gonna skip off but that we don't care about that. Like when we have so much more to compensate for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I've always thought as well. I mean, so many people, because I use a lot of panels. I've reviewed a lot of panels.
Okay.
And yeah, the power, I mean, one of the panels, consumer panels, right? Like not medical or anything, $1,000 odd. I'm testing 90 milliwatts at 6 inches. Like that's throwing out the power now. And
yeah, but there's a condition on that as well. Okay. What you find is they put a optics in front of it. Okay. So I have a demonstration we could grab a little later that I'll show you, where if I put a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper across my light, you'll see it's super uniform. The whole light is super uniform over it. So I've got a high power density over that whole deal. But if you have 6 LEDs and they're spaced out this far, and you put it against the skin, you got 6 spots of light. Now you're going back to the laser days. Okay.
Call it the polka dot effect.
Right. So and it's great if you take a power meter and they measure it and they put it right there, and you move it a half an inch over, and it's all of a sudden caving. So your power, the total power delivery is much less. Spec wise, it looks impressive.
Yeah, I've been reviewing panels for a
so
long time.
This panel is very different. Okay.
Yeah.
Because those are so close together. I'm not using a lens on the front of it because I don't care. They're overlapping. And when they overlap, you got such a nice, beautiful, continuous flow that there's no hot spots and you feel it. It'd be this panel compared to the other panels out there, and I won't name names. This feels like you're out on a summer sun at noon. The other panels feel more like you're out there at 6 o'clock in the evening. Okay. Yes, you're getting sun at 6 o'clock. Right. Yeah. You can see. Will you get anything to happen at 6 o'clock? No. But the power level from the sun is 100 milliwatts per square centimeter. So, but the difference is that 100 milliwatts is spread over all the different wavelengths into the near infrared and red and far infrared and blue and UV. Yeah. Okay, so but we're putting all that power down into the red near infrared range.
Is a device that is putting out, say, 5 milliwatts over centimeter squared, is it a waste of time? I mean, should we just go outside?
No, if you want to get your skin a little bit better, it'll be fine. But okay, but if you got a sore shoulder, you could sit there all day. You might have to sit there all day for a treatment, and even then, it's still not the enough to get over the therapeutic. So you can go to James points it out very nice. You can have extremes, like you can go for treating over 3 days and 1 milliwatt per square centimeter. Nothing happens.
Yeah, right.
You get down to the 25 milliwatt, and now you got, instead of treating for 5 minutes, you got to treat for 2 hours, and then you get to, let's say, 100 milliwatts per square centimeter. Now you can do something in 10 minutes, and you're getting an effectivity that's much better. And then you keep going on the curve to the point where you're burning tissue, and that's not going to be very helpful. Okay. And if you start burning tissue or overheating tissue, Dr. Praveen Irani talks about it in there, that you're causing other effects to happen that are actually contravening your benefit.
Tom, I feel like we could talk for hours, but they're literally
Yeah, we're losing light here. Let's just we'll do it this way, okay? Just there we go. We got lots of light here, okay? Here, we need light for you too.
For any you sell direct to consumer?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Which
so we send around the world. We send out of Canada. We also send out of Buffalo, New York, and we deal with anywhere.
And if someone wants to make a purchase or find out more about
so ideally they go to our website, SunPowerLED, and you just remember SunPower. If you just put that in you'll end up with solar panels for your house. So you have to have SunPowerLED.com.
Put the link below.
Okay. And so at SunPowerLED, we have a lot of information there, including on the research page, we have a links to a database of 7,500 studies. I didn't put them together, but somebody else did out of I forget now, Netherlands or somewhere there.
Yes. Vladimir.
Yes.
Got his last name, blanking, but yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So you can go in there, search.
High skin and stuff.
So you got, there's links to all sorts of things, including, I'll think of his name, Robert Malone.
Mm-hmm.
He posted he made a thing said, "Let there be light." And the reason being is he probably wouldn't have been there. His wife was treating herself with a light off the market from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
She had been thrown from a horse and broke up her ankle. And this is now 2 years later. And I says, "Do you know about PBM?" She says, "Yeah, it helps a bit." And I'm like, "Come on, helps a bit? Here, give this a try." And they wrote about it because it significantly, and that's that energy thing. It significantly had an improvement on her leg. And then he started using it for gout and saw such an improvement that they wrote this beautiful article, "Let There Be Light." But we have a lot of research there. We have a lot of videos with doctors, researchers, chiropractors, dentists, and lay people like yourself that says, "Hey, I had a burn. Look at this. In 1 week, it's healed." And
those are sometimes that's more powerful than a peer-reviewed study. Like honestly, I mean, it's incredible when people experience it firsthand. It's like this is legit.
Yeah, it's real. It's hard to believe, and basically, it can work anywhere where there's a cell in your body. So that covers from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head.
That's it.
And anywhere else in between.
Thank you very much.
Oh, hey, it's been great, Alex.
Yeah, this is your time.
Yeah.
And I love what you're doing. I mean, the experiments, the passion, it's very evident. Products that, you're coming up with yourself and, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah.
It's not just a carbon copy with a different sticker on it.
And we don't manufacture our stuff in China.
Really?
We have certain LEDs we have to buy from China, so we go with a really good quality brand. But when it comes to assembly and putting everything together and testing and going research and all that, that's all done in U.S. and Canada.
That's very cool. Very cool. I may have to get my hands on one and do a full review. Perhaps.
Okay.
Maybe we'll talk about that later. That'll be cool. Again, thank you so much, and we'll have to do a part 2 one day because I feel like there's still a lot more we could unpack.
We could, but they'll turn out the lights on us here.
All right, well, thank you very much.
All right, okay, bye for now.
And that is a wrap. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions for myself or Tom, leave them down below. Otherwise, head over to the SunPower LED website or check this video out, which is another interview of mine. I think you'll love it.
Well, I'm glad you were able to join with us. We got people from all around the world tonight, and I'm so thankful that you were able to tune in. And it was a wonderful interview. I really thank Alex for what he did. So now, if there's questions that you have out there, I'd like to try and answer some of the questions. And while we get into I'm just going to take another minute or two just to explain the different models that we have as far as lights. So, question came in here, can the 660 palm unit be used on eyes after having cataract lenses replaced? And using the 660 after lens replacement, can it still help for the eyes? And for the wellness of the eyes, we have been able to see benefit. So for people experiencing wet and dry macular degeneration, it seems to be helping. There's a device in Europe that has been fully approved, and they've been trying to get it approved with the FDA for North America, and that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened, even though they've tried for years now to make that work. But yes, it can be helpful to the eyes, and that's 1 minute with the eyelids closed. Definitely eyelids closed. 1 minute of the red, 1 minute of the near infrared. The reason that you have the eyelids closed is because it's much like sunbathing than on the beach. You could be out on the beach for 2 hours and you're not going to harm your eyes that way. And the reason being is the eyelids do a wonderful job of diffusing light. So you have a very uniform field of light on the back of the eye. Yeah, so, and if there's anybody out there, we're trying to put together a study for wet and dry macular degeneration, get a study that can be approved. So let us know, or if you have another eye issue, glaucoma, or diabetic retinopathy, those kinds of things, we'd be very interested. Please connect with us, and we'll put you on a list and see if at some point we can get governmental approval to go forward with a study. So yeah, there's more. Go down, please. There's more. Okay. Yes, are there examples of dizziness or balance challenges being improved? Yes, very bad vertigo has been totally eliminated. I know on one of the women that was having a very rough time between migraines and dizziness, so that has helped with the vertigo issues. So is there a device with 660, 810, 1060, as well as, okay, 10 or 40 or 60 hertz all in one? Okay, we make, with the palm lights, we make them 660 and 810 or 660 and 1050. So we have the three palm lights. We have the Palm Professional at 660, 810. So let me just grab the right one here for a moment. So this is the 660, the bright red, and this is the 810, which you can see on the screen here right now. And we have two models with those two wavelengths. So that is 660 and 810 is the Professional and the Ultimate. And the Ultimate actually has 25% more power behind it. So that's what's the difference with the Ultimate. And then what we did for the 1050 is we called that the Super Palm. So it has 660 and 1050. And those two wavelengths are both, well, the 1050 is the newer wavelength that's starting to receive some research. Actually, dentists have used 1064 nanometer for a long time, but it wasn't available for LEDs yet. So with the Super Palm, the LEDs do cost more, so it's a premium product. And when it comes to whether you're talking 10 or 40 or 60 hertz, the 10, 40 or 60 hertz is the pulsing of that light. So if it's 10 hertz, it's 10 times a second, it's flashing at you a little faster than that. Okay, that would be 10 hertz. 40 hertz is where you see a little bit of a flicker, and 60 hertz, you barely see it. So it's possible to, we do provide a custom device that allows you to plug it in between the palm and the power cord, and this little device that sits in between allows you to set the frequency if you're wanting to pulse the light at a given frequency. So in that case, you can address those if you're trying to deal with brain issues and you want to do, there's alpha and gamma rays, gamma. I can't remember the different terms right now for the brain, but it is quite interesting when LEDs are pulsing on the brain. So yes, and can it, okay. Okay, question is from Braden. Could you do a study on retinal pigmentosis? I'm unfamiliar with that. I'll have to dig into that and learn a little bit more. But if I know there's a number of researchers have joined us tonight, and we would love to see some of these things studied. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be going to Detroit and visiting with one of my customers. She is doing right now a study in Michigan, doing a study with Parkinson's. So there'll be it'll be a case study, and there'll be three patients with Parkinson's that'll be treated. So we'll see how that goes. We also definitely go to the PBM 2024 link under our research, and you'll find all the stuff that was going on in England, and now we will be posting this webinar as well as Alex's interview. So definitely go to that PBM 2024 link, and you'll see a lot of good stuff. But one of the things that was done is, some of you may have heard this already, but to us it's very exciting. We had our first published study done on our helmet, and that is to do with opioid addiction and depression, and it is published, and there is a link to it. And that was with people there was a total of 50 people, and 25 of them were in the light treatment group. The other 25 were with no light. All of them received the same standard of care, and in this case, the people with the light therapy done twice a week. That's a 3-minute session twice a week, and they only used, in this case, the 810 nanometer. And they did that because it was going to be more complicated to try and get it through just to add the 660. So there's more research out there showing how 810 nanometer works. And so they did the study with 810, and the people that went through the group that got treatment did significantly better in their outcome. They had less cravings for the opiates. They were less depressed, and there was a number of factors that they were, number of measurements that they were doing. And the two researchers we had on, you can see their interview that I did with them. This is about a month ago, and it was Dr. Jenny Flora and Dr. Huffer. Anyways, you can go back there and look at it. But for those that are in our group here that are watching tonight, I welcome you to look into thinking about doing a small study of some kind. So yeah, I'll get some more questions here. Which device with what wavelengths help the vertigo? We know that 810 has been very useful in that area. The one person had the light that, this was in the earlier days, had a light that was a broader spectrum using a special light that I developed and I have patents on, but which it's using a halogen light source, not nearly as convenient as these guys now, but LEDs weren't there. So it was it was the broader spectrum between 660 nanometer and up to about 1300 nanometer. But I believe that 810 has been shown to be very beneficial in that area. Okay, there's another question here for me. Okay, we have, Kim is saying, Tom, please take him up on the offer. Okay, there must be another Tom out there for the Super Palm 1050. We'd love to work with anyone out there. That's so I got another question on the bottom here. Oh, sorry. I'm going to be, the question from Braden is, I'm going to be flying into Detroit on Friday and an overnight trip, and I'll be back, coming back midday. I want to support the work that's being done on the Parkinson's. Also, I got some cool information. We mentioned a while ago about arrows for Anne. That was Anne Abernathy. She is an Olympian champion. She's competed 6 times in, well, actually, I guess 6 times, and the 7th time for the Olympics. And she was first in the where they go down on the ice. What's it, real fast on a sled? Anyways, crazy luge. That's what it is. She did the luge for a long time, and being 70 years old, I mean, you can't do that anymore. So she started doing archery, and she pulls 42 pounds, and in her practices, she does that 200 times a day, and she just won the world championship of archery at 70 years old with her abilities. And one of the challenges she had is her fingers were locking up, and there was other areas on her body that were, I mean, she's 70 years old. I mean, our bodies don't work as nicely as we'd like them. So she was able to compete even with these difficult situations with her fingers. And because she was treating her fingers, she could keep getting movement going, and she won the world championship. So congratulations to Anne for that. So she was going to be on tonight, but unfortunately she is sick. So appreciate your prayers for her. Let's see, is there, okay, my son has, okay, this is from Tamara. Okay, my son has non-electrical seizures. He has had them since he was 2. He is now 27. What do you recommend? So first of all the time, I'm not a medical doctor. I can't prescribe anything, although I've worked with a lot of different doctors and researchers. So my suggestion, if it was possible, if it is a brain-induced problem, I still strongly recommend somehow working with us with the helmet, which has that optical power that we saw earlier. So it's got the 2 wavelengths, the 660 or 810 would be fine. If that could be done once a day for a minute of the red and 3 minutes of the near infrared. Okay, question comes, is there a way to utilize our product for a short period of time before making an expensive purchase? Yes, we are working with individuals like yourself, and we usually do a 2-week rental. And if you decide to keep the unit, we give you the full credit towards that. So that can be 2-3 weeks, but we're not really in the rental business. So that wasn't our purpose. We know this light can be used for so many different applications. So I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I hope you were able to pick up on some of those things that Alex was actually asking me about. It was a great interview. So thank you for joining us. And remember, as you've been joining us tonight, you are entered in a draw, and once a week, once a week. Yeah, every time you join us, you get a ballot put in, and then once a month, we do a draw for one of the Palm Ultimate, and that's a $1,300 device. That is this one, no, this one here with the 660-810, and that's available. So, well, join us next Tuesday. We're going to we'll have another webinar coming up. So one person is asking, what about getting all 3 wavelengths frequencies in? No, our design, there's reasons why we designed the utilizing 2 wavelengths. People do mix out there, they do mix the wavelengths together, and we don't do that because we don't want 50% of one wavelength and 50% of another. We want to do 100% of the power that we can possibly put out on the wavelength that you choose. And sometimes you may choose to do a shorter treatment time on the long wavelength, a longer treatment on the other wavelength, and you've got that total flexibility. But we don't shorten or we don't reduce the amount of energy that's available. So it does cost us a lot more. Some manufacturers, they'll put a third of their LEDs are one wavelength, third of their LEDs are another, and third of another. They mix it all together, and they say, see how much power they have? But in actual fact, it's they have the third of the power on one wavelength, third on the other, and third of the other. Now, we don't do 33%. We do 100% of each wavelength. So anyways, thank you everyone for joining us. You have yourself a great evening, and hope to see you next week, Tuesday. All the best, and may you be blessed. Bye for now.